Real quick before we get into everything, I was in the middle of editing this and we see that Jalen Carter gets signed. If you didn't see the short already, it's a massive deal, $38 million a year, pretty much $40 million a year, 106 million guaranteed. Absolutely awesome. I'm glad to see Jalen getting paid. It's just fantastic that the Eagles went ahead and got this done before training camp kicked off. So now there's no drama, there's no storylines. It's time to just go out and play like you mean it. And I expect a big year from Jalen Carter. It's going to be a lot harder to double team him with a lot of the guys we have on the D line. You've got more guys taking their next step, Moro Ojomo, stuff like that. For Jalen Carter, worth every penny, single-handedly won us the game against the Rams on our Super Bowl run a couple years back. That alone made him worth every penny that he was ever going to get. So hopefully there's more winning to do. Hopefully Jalen's ready to take another step this year, stay healthy, stay on the field, and just dominate the way we expect him to. So good for him. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into the video. What's up, guys? Sean here, coming at y'all with a quick little video. Gonna be covering the Philadelphia Eagles today. Gonna be going over the whole team, the unofficial depth chart. Gonna be talking about some guys more than others, but just kind of running through everything and seeing where the Eagles stand before tomorrow when Eagles training camp actually kicks off. We're going to be going over all that and more. But first, if you're new here, please like, please subscribe. We're growing every day. We're on the road to 1,000. I can't do that without you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're posting here. I'm posting daily videos on the Philadelphia Eagles, 76ers, whatever news is going on in the league. We're covering it all here first. I love you guys. Let's get right into the video. So the first thing we see here that we're going to look at obviously is quarterback. Jalen Hurts is your locked in starter. He's not going anywhere. The backup position is really going to be between Andy Dalton and Tanner McKee right now. All signs point to Tanner McKee getting traded. I honestly think that whatever you can get for him right now, you need to just go ahead and get it. I don't think you're going to win a ton of games with Tanner McKee if Jalen goes down. In reality, you just need your backup to kind of hold a clipboard, hold the fort down if Jalen goes down for a couple plays or God forbid a game or two, come in and just look serviceable. Tanner has had games where he looked amazing, but he had a little bit of a run last year where he didn't look as good as he had early on. I really like Cole Payton. Everything I've seen from him looks great. I don't expect him to come in and start. I don't expect him to fight for a job, but I think the Eagles like him and he's definitely got something there and could grow into that backup position. So I think the smart thing to do is just keep Andy Dalton, get whatever you can get for Tanner McKee, because any value you get for him is going to help the team at this point. You gave up a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick for him in the draft. If you bring in a 3rd or a 4th, then that's an absolute win. Running back, I expect to be an absolute 1-2 punch this year. It really boils down to Saquon, Tank Bigsby, Will Shipley. Those are our guys that we brought in, traded for, drafted. So you expect they're going to be the big 3 throughout the year. Obviously more Saquon than anybody else. I hope we get a healthy dose of Tank Bigsby this year. Will Shipley, we can kind of just keep him on special teams. Haven't really seen much. Couple good runs here and there, but mostly good blocking. Not really the player I thought he was going to be at the next level, although I do still kind of like him on 3rd downs. He's got a little shiftiness to him, but we'll see how they attack things this year. Dameon Pierce, a hell of a running back a couple years ago, had a mean 1 or 2 seasons with the Texans, I think, and then just fell off the planet. If he makes the team, cool. I'm going to look at that a lot like AJ Dillon a couple years ago, where it's good to have him around if you need him, but I don't expect him to play a lot. And then we got a couple other guys behind them, undrafted, low-end guys, but we're not going to dig too deep into that today. Wide receivers, probably our biggest battle we're watching. Outside of maybe corner and safety this year. You've got Devontae Smith, Mekhi Lemon, and Dontavian Wicks as your first 3, which really makes a lot of sense. You traded for Wicks. You drafted Lemon. Devontae is your number 1. So you really expect that to kind of be how things go. The 2nd and 3rd unit is where things start to get a little more jumbled, because then you've got Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore, Johnny Wilson, Darius Cooper, Britton Covey, Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins, I don't expect anything. Britton Covey, if he can't make it as a special teamer, he's not going to make the team. Darius Cooper seems to have fallen out of favor. Had a hell of a OTAs and preseason last year, I believe it was. A lot of people calling him AJ Brown 2.0, and now it's just went dead quiet on that front. I really hope we get a good look at him through OTAs and into the preseason this year. Hollywood Brown is my certified 3rd, 4th guy. I don't think we've had a deep threat on this team in a couple years. a true deep threat. Now, Smitty has done a hell of a job with down the field stuff and being our kind of de facto deep threat. He's much more of a route runner and a possession receiver, and he's going to do a lot better in a new role this year because it fits a lot of what he did early in his career and in college more, and it fits his frame more. I think we've put Smitty in a lot of harm's way, and I would like to see him just be able to use his route running to his advantage this year and not have to go up and get as many deep balls as he has in the past. Not saying it won't happen, but I would just like to see him taking some less chances this year. Allow Hollywood Brown to go out, experience deep threat, really can stretch the field, and then allow Jalen to show off his arm at that point. Elijah Moore and Johnny Wilson are kind of in the same boat for me. Johnny Wilson will obviously have the edge because the Eagles drafted him, but I don't see him playing a lot of special teams. Elijah Moore is someone I could more see kind of in a special teams role. So he seems like the guy that would make a lot of sense for that last spot on the roster. Another guy that was really coveted a couple years ago, did some good things with the Jets, but just fell out of favor. I wonder how much of his lost talent over the years is just because it was the Jets. Does he have anything left in the tank? He'll be another one that I'll be watching a lot through OTAs and training camp because I know he was signed because he was AJ's friend. A lot of people thought we were just trying to patch things up there, but still a player that has a lot of intrigue to him and pretty young. Hopefully still has a lot of gas in the tank because he could do big things for this team. So in reality, I think you have 4 spots locked up. It's going to boil down to special teams. It's going to boil down to how they can help the team without being on the field. We'll see as time goes on who falls in and out of favor in that front. Tight end, you've got Dallas Goedert, Eli Stowers, Johnny Munn, Grant Calcaterra. Calcaterra had some good down the field stuff, but not really ever healthy. I think he's the one that falls out this year. Johnny Munn gives you a lot more of a blocking presence and a true tight end presence. When I say that, I mean a guy that lines up with the O lineman, does a lot of the dirty work, catches stuff underneath, not very flashy in the passing game, but does everything well. And I think he's going to take a lot more tight end 2 snaps this year in the regular season than people realize, barring a trade. Eli Stowers is going to do a lot of slot receiver, second tight end off of the first tight end, kind of stacked packages. They're going to want to hide him, his blocking deficiencies, a lot like they did with Calcaterra over the past couple years. But the difference here is I expect Stowers to grow into that blocking role. He's a smart kid. He does have pretty good size to him. Him hitting the weight room, working with the Eagles, he's going to become a better blocker. And I think by the end of the season, he's your true tight end too, but it could take a little bit longer than that. Dallas Goedert only being on a 1-year deal kind of terrifies me because if he goes out and has too big of a year, you're not really able to pay him with the way you've paid everybody else. Now, obviously, Howie can make anything work that he wants to, but I just don't see us extending Dallas Goedert again. I think this is his last year with us. With that being said, it scares me if he has too much production because that means we didn't get enough from our second and third guys. You really want to see Stowers catch fire in the passing game as the year goes on. If he has less than 40 catches by the end of the year, it's kind of a disappointment. You want to make sure that throughout the season you sprinkle him in and just give him 1 or 2 targets here or there. If he shows you nothing early, then he's going to hit the bench. But if he shows you something early, then it'll build his confidence and it'll only expand what you can do with him moving forward. So I'd really like to see him get some good targets throughout this year. Not necessarily taking tight end 1 snaps from Dallas Goedert because he is our best chance at winning this year, but you want to make sure you don't stunt the development of your second round pick. Offensive line is pretty much intact. A lot of the backups have changed. That's a lot of what we'll be watching through camp is more the backups than the starters. Right guard with Tyler Steen, I expect him to take another step. I think he's going to run away with the job. A lot of people are talking about if it gets taken by somebody else, what's he got to do to keep his job? I think it's his to lose. I think last year the interior O-line was absolute dog shit. He got jumbled into that dog shit. He was not perfect. He made mistakes. I think Tyler Steen's a lot more solid than people realize. I think Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, and Tyler Steen are all going to play well this year. I think they're all either going to get Pro Bowl nods or play on that level. And then with your backups, Markel Bell is a giant 3rd round pick. Already looks really good. Early, right after the draft at mandatory minicamp. He was already showing how strong he was and how fast he was for that size. And I think he'll have a development role similar to Jordan Mailata. I think it'll take 3, maybe 4 years for him to really get where he needs to be. But about the time Lane Johnson's retiring, he will be sliding into that right tackle role. And I'm excited to see what he does moving forward. Michael Jordan, he's really just fighting for a backup spot spot at this point. I don't expect him to stick around, but he could surprise us. Drew Kendall, we really need to see big things from. I expect him to make a pretty big leap this year. Center was shaky last year. Someone like Drew Kendall coming in and having a hell of a preseason could make us feel a lot better if Cam Jurgens struggles early. I know Cam has a big contract right now, but if Drew Kendall comes out and plays the way a lot of people think he could be a surprise addition to this O-line at some point in the year. Holland Pierce, tackle drafted last year, maybe the year before, switching to guard. He has to stick. If he can't really make it work at guard, this might be his last chance to stick with this roster. It would be great if he plays well at guard, because then you have another swing tackle that you could use on this team, gives you some freedom, and just gives you a little more versatility, and you don't have to carry as many guys into game day because you know you have multiple guys that can do multiple things. And then we'll end it here with Fred Johnson. We're not going to get into the deep bench. Fred, obviously, couple years with the team, has been super, super solid, would probably be a starter in a lot of other places if people knew how to use him properly. Again, not a perfect player, but one of the best backup tackles in the league, and we've been beyond lucky to have him on this team. So all in all, the offense looks pretty good. I mean, a big wide receiver battle, but outside of that, a lot of familiar faces. They're just learning a new scheme, and I expect all of these guys to thrive in that new scheme. It's going to be really exciting to see how wide receiver pans out, because with the rest of these guys being locked in, with the depth battling and the depth that we have built over the past couple years, there's not a lot of fear of wide receiver not working out, because you've got Saquon, you've got one of the best O-lines in the league, you've got Jalen Hurts, who isn't afraid to use his legs, and that right there will fix a lot of the issues that we have with wide receiver moving forward. Now, with that being said, I like Hollywood Brown. I think he makes a lot more noise on this team this year than people think. Nothing against any of the guys that are ahead of him on the depth chart, but I just see him and Jalen Hurts having a big year together. If he's given his opportunities, he'll be the guy that I'm watching the most. But exciting to watch this year. We'll get into the defense a little bit now. Defense is a little weird. Cornerback and safety are going to be the things that we watch the most this year. A lot of questions about Jonathan Grenard. You know, he's coming off a little bit of an injury-riddled season. He was a top pass rusher for a long time. It'll be interesting to see if he's still got it. But most of the eyes are going to be on the secondary this year. At defensive tackle, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are going to definitely be leading the way. They're going to get the bulk of the snaps this year. Moro Ojomo will definitely be our third guy. He is a great pass rusher, has shown a lot of high IQ plays over the years. I love Moro Ojomo. I am not ready to actually see him leave this team. This could be his last year, so it'll be interesting to see how he comes out and plays. Behind that, you've got Byron Young, Zion Wilson, and Ty Robinson. You also got Gabe Hall and Taquan Graham. The big guys here is Byron Young and Ty Robinson. I believe we picked up Byron Young off waivers. Correct me if I'm wrong there about that. I think we got him from the Raiders. And Ty Robinson we drafted in the 3rd round or the 4th round, if I remember correctly. Maybe the 4th round. Ty Robinson has been a ghost since draft night. I remember a lot of excitement on draft night about Ty Robinson, and I don't think he's really sniffed the field. I don't even think he's had very many special teams reps. Kind of an undersized defensive tackle, showed a lot of agility and burst in college. It kind of makes you wonder if he's even going to be able to utilize any of that in the NFL. With that being said, later round D tackles on this team tend not to play for a year or two, and then when they do play, you really see why we were developing them, giving them a chance to learn the game before we put them on the field, and giving them a chance to add muscle. It's going to be interesting because I think these are guys that can be cut. We have guys further down the depth chart like UR Bernard who are going to be looking for a stash spot. It makes me wonder if none of these guys pop outside of the top 3 that we talked about. Do you just keep Bernard on the roster? I mean, you're going to have to put him on injured reserve at some point because you're going to have to stash him. He's obviously not ready to be here, but you don't want to risk losing him. So they're definitely going to play games with the league on how they keep him around. But if none of these other guys show you anything throughout the seasoning, doesn't it make sense to just put Bernard on the field? I know he's ultra raw, like Jordan Mailata raw when it comes to playing football, but he's not playing tackle. He's playing defensive tackle. And it's a position to where if you put him on the field in 3rd down situations and you tell him, look, the only thing you got to worry about right now is going after that quarterback. That's pretty simple. And he's a giant human being. His presence alone is going to draw a double or a triple. And if he's on that line with a Jalen Carter and you double him instead of Jalen, you're going to pay for that. Or vice versa. He's a giant human. He may not have moves yet, but you put him up against certain teams and he could be a game wrecker immediately with no skills whatsoever. And that's what makes him such a scary prospect because he has all the tools to become a giant, disruptive, agile defensive tackle. And he could be a monster. And if Byron Young shows you nothing and Zion Wilson does nothing and Ty Robinson looks like a bust, then why not just give the roster spot to him? That could be something interesting to watch this year. At your pass rushers, you've got Nolan Smith, Arnold Mbuke, and then a couple of guys that probably aren't going to make this team. No offense. On the other side of things, you've got Jonathan Grenard, Jalix Hunt, AJ Epinoza. That side of the line is a little bit more interesting because I think all three of those guys are locks. I think on the other side, you have Nolan and you have Arnold. I think Arnold and AJ are going to be battling for a position. Both guys have shown a lot over their career. Now, last year we said that about our backups as well, and they didn't really show us anything through the season, but I have a good feeling about these guys. I think we have a ton of depth at pass rusher. I think the way camp pans out is going to determine a lot of how this defense plays through the season because running three big men in the middle and putting two smaller guys on the outside and letting them really hunt the quarterback, screens, draws, jet sweeps, stuff like that, it changes the way you do things. And we know Grenard is fine in that system. He did it in Minnesota. We know Nolan Smith now has 2-3 years under his belt. He's getting used to it. We know Jalix Hunt looked like a star at points last year and on his Super Bowl run. So the next couple guys, there's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of room for guys, but these are big names. And it'll be really, really interesting to see how seriously they take training camp and the preseason. And whoever wants it more is going to be the guy that gets it. In my eyes, I honestly think that it's going to be AJ. I think he just, the size, being able to play inside and outside, he gives you a little bit more. Now with Arnold, he had a couple decent seasons with Atlanta, kind of fell out of favor and then had a bad year last year, but all things considered, he looked like a dog early on. So he could be that outside guy that we've been looking for opposite Jalix Hunt, just someone to give the starters a breather, to rotate in on a couple downs and make some noise. That fourth and fifth spot at edge rusher is going to be very, very interesting. In the middle of the field, I don't think there's a lot of questions. Zach Bond and Campbell are going to be your bona fide starters day one. No question about that. Small Mundan and Jeremiah Trotter are probably the two best backups in the league, to the point to where you're going to see them on the field. There's going to be games where teams run the ball better or teams pass better. And I think each of those guys are going to be utilized in those situations, and you're going to see them quite a bit through the year. I think special teams, they're both going to make a lot of noise, and they could probably be starters in a lot of other places. So that's kind of wild to think about. I mean, we have an undrafted guy, I believe it's Joshua Wuru. He looks like he could play day one. I have no idea how he went undrafted. So really exciting to watch. Jihad Campbell and Zach Bond, you don't have to say much about that. Zach Bond has gotten better every year. I feel like he probably takes another step this year. We might have to actually extend him again soon, or at least start thinking about it, because he's one of the best inside linebackers in the league, and you cannot just let him walk away. I know he came from nothing and you didn't really want to give him the big deal because he wasn't a homegrown talent, but the bald bird in the middle is the man, and I just don't want to see him go. And if he has another big season, we have to lock him up long term. Jihad Campbell got benched last year, not because he was playing bad, just because it's just really more attributed to the voice that Nakobe Dean had. I mean, Nakobe was so perfect in the center of this defense. Again, I hate to see him go, but with the talent we have around, Jihad Campbell has no one this year to really take the job from him unless one of the third or fourth guys have an insane preseason. I think Jihad Campbell's your guy all the way. He looked amazing last year. I expect him to take another step this year. We could have the best 1-2 punch at linebacker in the league. And, it'll change the way teams play us and the way teams run the ball against us if they have a good season. And these corners could end up eating and coming away with crazy numbers for interceptions. At cornerback, we've got Reek Woolen, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Pretty much a lock there. Those are going to be your starters. It's going to be backup corner that we're really going to be watching. Michael Carter, Jonathan Jones, Keely Ringo. Can any of these guys stick on? Jacorian Bennett had some run last year. Aubrey Thomas. I mean, some of these guys had run last year. Some of them didn't. I believe Mac McWilliams had a little bit of run last year as well. The top three is locked. So in reality, you have about 3 or 4 spaces that everybody else is fighting for. I know we drafted Keely Ringo. He was supposed to be a guy and take over for Darius Slay, but I think that experiment is over. You got guys like Jonathan Jones that can play inside out. Yes, he's 32 years old, but he's unbelievably experienced and still got a lot of gas in the tank. You've got Michael Carter, who you reworked a contract with. I don't think he's going anywhere. And then you've also got Jacorian Bennett, who you traded for last year. So what do you think of those guys? Who's plays the best special teams? Now, Keely Ringo had some run on special teams last year, so that could win him the job again this year. But Jonathan Jones is no stranger to special teams, as is Michael Carter. So who of those guys can get the upper hand? And, do we play enough pass happy teams to really get a good look at these guys? Because we don't get to see a lot of what goes on in camp. We're going to be watching preseason to really judge these guys. So I just hope that we pick the right guys, because we're one injury away at corner from things getting really rocky and really shaky, especially with Cooper DeJean potentially playing safety this year. The depth chart still shows corner. There hasn't been anything definitive that says he's going to be a full-time safety, but Vic Fangio did go on a podcast and talk about it a little bit, so it's something we're going to be keeping our eyes on. And then your starting safeties as of right now, Marcus Epps and Andrew Mabuka. Behind them, Cooper DeJean, JT Gray, Cole Wisniewski, Andre Sam. Not a lot of depth at safety. This is what makes you think that Cooper DeJean actually is going to have a bigger role over there. Maybe we keep 7 corners because they think Cooper's going to slide into safety. I still would love to have another guy or two at safety. I think there's a move to be made somewhere. I think Howie's been working the phones, but it's probably harder than you think to get someone, of quality for anything other than a ridiculous price, because Howie has fleeced the entire league at this point. But with that being said, we're going to watch the guys we got, see if any moves get made, and see if Cooper DeJean starts at safety, because that could be an interesting development all in its own. Long snapper Rocco Underwood. We've got a new guy this year. It'll be interesting to watch him, his chemistry with Braden Mann, Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott has been a little up or down. Had a pretty good postseason last year, but outside of that, didn't really do much. He has to have a big camp. I'm surprised that we haven't brought in more kickers yet. I expect us to bring in another kicker at some point. I know the team has the ultimate faith in him, but if he starts the season shaky, he could be gone before the season's over. He's literally regressed that much over the past year or two, and we don't know anymore. I need to see another good year from Jake to kind of restore that confidence. As for Braden Mann, he's been rock solid since he's been here. I have no doubts with him. We already know what he can do. Yes, he's going to refine his craft, but bring someone else in, let them kick during the games, and give him a break, because he's been rock solid since he's been here. I don't expect him to have to do much this offseason. This one I would take with a grain of salt. Kick return, Will Shipley, Tank Bigsby, Britton Covey, Damian Pierce. Now, those are the 4 most likely guys to do kick return duties, but I will talk about that more when we see something definitive from Nick or one of the coaches moving forward. All right, guys, so I know that got super long. I let everything drag out a little too long. I probably talked a little too much, but we've got depth. We've got a ton of depth on this team. We really need some safety help, but I think everywhere else we're rock solid. Barring any trades, the only thing that I could really think of would be to bring in another pass rusher who's a definitive starter, or to bring in a safety who could start as well. I don't really see that happening right now this time at camp. We're going to be picking at the waiver wire. Guys are getting let go. Guys are getting brought in. So I expect Howie to be working the phones. But for right now, we're going to run with the team we got, see how things go. But tell me down below what you guys think. I appreciate all the love and support. I appreciate you guys coming back to the channel. I know we've been doing a lot of NBA stuff, and we're transitioning to a little bit of NFL now. I hope you guys are willing to travel with me. I hope we keep the numbers up, because we've been doing great lately. Again, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I can't do it without you guys. Hit the like, comment down below, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of our content, and tune in for the next one, guys. We're going to be talking about training camp nonstop over the next week, and it's going to be really exciting to get into. I love you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.